Belgium's King Philippe has expressed his deepest regrets for his country's brutal rule in its former colony, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Millions of Congolese were killed, mutilated, or died of disease as the land was pillaged for its resources, particularly under the rule of King Leopold the Second. That history has overshadowed the ongoing visit of the current king, with many Congolese expecting restitution of some kind.
A first official visit to the DRC for King Philippe, and he arrived to a warm welcome from his hosts. The trip comes at a time of heightened consciousness of Europe's colonial history in Africa. It's a painful past to reflect upon, as the visiting king acknowledged.
The colonial regime was based on exploitation and domination. It was a regime of unequal and unjustifiable relationships, marked by paternalism, discrimination and racism. It led to violent acts and humiliations. Here, in front of the Congolese people and those who are still suffering from it, I wish to reaffirm my deepest regrets for these past wounds.
Deep regrets, but no clear apology for the deadly plunder of this land's resources. The limbs and lives of millions of Congolese were brutally lost for the insatiable demands of King Leopold II, who governed this territory as his personal property. In fact, it was one of the worst mass killings in modern history. Yet it took the recent emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement to question why Leopold is still celebrated in Belgium. In Kinshasa, the DRC government says it's not forgetting the past, but looking to start what it calls a new partnership. One step in this direction is the return of some Congolese artifacts that had been in Belgian museums for decades. King Philippe brought with him an initiation mask from Congo's Suku people.
These objects went to the West a long time ago and have now come back home. It's the spirit of our ancestors that is returning. It's important that the Congolese people can appropriate their own culture.
Also expected back is the tooth of Patrice Lumumba, the former prime minister who was assassinated in 1961. Belgium took partial responsibility for backing his killers, one of whom kept his tooth as a trophy. Later this year, a parliamentary committee in Brussels is expected to release a report examining Belgium's historical record in its former African colony, meaning more detail on the past atrocities could emerge and possibly create room for the justice that many Congolese seek.
For some analysis of King Philippe's historic visit to the DRC, I'm joined now by Anne Witsi Mpoma from Brussels. She's a Belgian Congolese art historian, the founder of Witsi Art Gallery, and a former member of an expert group on Belgium's colonial past. Hello, Anne. Welcome to the program. So, for the second time, the king has again expressed profound regrets for his country's brutal colonial past in DRC. But once again, he failed to issue a full apology. How was that received?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of an advance that the king is presenting kind of excuses here in Belgium, because we really live in a very conservative place. But what we expect, it's not only the king to apologize, but it's really the government to recognize that colonial past was something brutal, was a crime against humanity. And we also would like to have a politic of reparation here in Belgium. So the king may present or not present his excuses, but after the words, we also need action.
So just to be clear, was it disappointing for him not to apologize?
It was already the first time. The second time now, I don't even have it's not even disappointing anymore, because he did it already in the past, and nothing really happened afterwards.
Okay, so you earlier mentioned some of the atrocities that were committed by the Belgians under colonial rule. Tell us more.
About the atrocities, oh, there are so many things to say, but like the first international campaign for humankind was actually a campaign against the politic of the King Leopold the Second in the Congo, because they were cutting members, organs of the people, like the hands of the people who didn't produce enough rubber. So what I would say is that, yeah, you had this brutality. You also had labor, forced labor. You had I don't even know where to start. It's actually because the experts, historians of the colonial commission, of the commission for the colonial past in the Congo, really described all the atrocities that happened in the Congo in a report of more than 900 pages. So it's really like I wouldn't know where to start, like really. But maybe start with the colonial propaganda, who really which the aim was to convince Belgian people, but also Congolese people themselves, that they were less than human people, and that it was normal that they were treated as beasts because they were not totally fully human, because they were black people.
Now, even after independence, Belgium still tried to keep influence over its former colony. Tell us more about Patrice Lumumba and why he is such a towering figure in the history of DRC.
Yeah, Patrice Lumumba was the first prime minister of the Congo, and he really resisted, and at least he tried to resist, and he really fought the colonial system. And he's very famous for his speech of the day of the independence, the 30th of June 1960, because he made a speech where he really responded to the king at this time, who was the King Baudouin. And this speech really made him famous in the whole world, because he really stood up. He really spoke about how the Congolese people were treated as half humans. He was talking about the discrimination, but also about the apartheid that was also present into the cities of the Congo. And he is also a hero today, because he has been killed because of his will to really fight for the freedom of his country and of his people.
The only remains left is his tooth, but Belgium has pledged to return that. It's just one tooth, but how symbolic and significant is it?
It's really about respect and about the dignity of his body. He was a hero. Like, he really stood up for his country, and he has been killed because of that. And until today, there is still a propaganda of former colonial people to also deny and discredit his work, and to say that he murdered people, that he was unorganized, and that he brought disorder into the country. So I think it's really, it would be the first step into a reparation politic, like we give back the tooth of Patrice Lumumba. Maybe we also start to give back some looted artifacts, and we start to speak about reparation, and we start to recognize that colonization was a crime against humanity, and we stop talking about the good deeds that Belgian colonizer did to the Congo during this period.
And you're Congolese living in Belgium. Is there widespread understanding in Belgium that it has to make amends for its colonial past?
Yes, actually, most of the people do recognize that Belgium has to make amends for the past and for the brutalities that occurred in the past, and for all the colonial propaganda. It's only a small portion of the population who doesn't want to admit it, but it's a small portion that has a lot of power and that can really block the situation and resist to the change that is coming.
Okay. Anne Witsi Mpoma, Belgian Congolese historian, thank you.
Welcome.